Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back with a new face this time. We just finished up with the Bad Batch episode 3 review. Back to back killer. But you know what came out this weekend or even today? The 9th installment in the fucking Saw franchise, dude. It's just crazy to say. Since 2004, we're getting a 9th installment in 2021, almost 20 years later. Watch, that's when the 10th film is going to come out. And guys, we decided in honor of Spiral and the Saw franchise, we figured we'd pit arguably the two most liked out of the franchise, which is Saw, the first one, and Saw 6, guys. Two completely different type of Saw movies, but they kind of share the overall same arc and feeling as each other. Now, let's just drop right into it. Saw, we all know it was a genre-defying movie, but what does that say about its story, though? Looking back at the story and knowing a little bit more context behind the production of this film, I just think it's immaculate what they did with the story. This film was given little to no budget. They only had 2 sets to work off of, and one of them was obviously that bathroom set, and they obviously use it further in the story. But I like how this game starts off. It's not what it eventually turns into, where it just turns into this, rips her spine in half or rips her rib cage out. None of that overly grotesque stuff. But this story is super cool and unique for 2004 standards, I would at least say, because this story I don't feel like would work now. I don't think it's overly complicated. But I do like when it comes to the story, the twist ending is obviously, I know it's like a memorable moment, but I feel like it really connects into the story because it shows you that it's not who you thought it was the entire time. This was Saw's first big twist. Honestly, memorable moment of John Kramer coming up and revealing that he's actually the Jigsaw killer. We'll talk a little bit more on that in the memorable moments, obviously. But we have our 2 characters. We have Gordon and Lee Winnell's character. I always forget Lee Winnell's character for whatever reason, but Dr. Gordon for me is at least the standout because he's just I don't want to say corrupt doctor. The corruption comes a little bit more later into the franchise, but this film starts to touch on these doctors, these people that we see and live up to, we see them as these figures because they save lives, that they're better than us. And this film really shows that doctors are just as human too. We find out that Gordon cheats on his wife, and that's ultimately why he's in the game. And then we find out Lee Winnell's character, who is honestly the exact opposite in personality to Gordon, more of the wisecracking, not really too methodical, more of the punchline type of character, and kind of rushes into things and doesn't really think about stuff too often. I think he plays a good counter to the Gordon character. I'm not too big on the family subplot. I know they kind of needed something in there to drive the movie forward. I didn't find myself caring about them too much because there was really no connection within the film. And then we find out that Lee Winnell's character's in the game because he was actually tailing Gordon for cheating. So that's something we'll see a lot in these Saw franchises, is how everyone's just ultimately connected with one another. But I'll just hit you guys with my score. For story, I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. I feel like that's just beating the plausible and good range for me. I think it works for the movie's benefit, but I also don't want to give it like cookie points because of the budget they were constrained on. And I still think it's wonders that they did this, but let's just go straight to you, Deebs.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go a little higher. And before we get started, though, I just want to make it clear because I'm going to be giving out a lot of bad grades over the next 45 minutes to an hour. And James Wan, we're talking about my guy, James Wan, like Fast 7. You talk about in the Insidious movies. You talk about Aquaman, Death Sentence, which is super underrated. There's a lot of movies that James Wan's I absolutely love. He's up on the upper echelon of my favorite directors, period. So as much as I'm excited for this show, I'm also not excited because I'm not a Saw fan. I like every ounce of my body. I do not like torture porn. I am more of that like psychological, supernatural type of horror fan. What you see is way more scarier than what you don't see. And when you get with Saw, it's like the exact opposite. It's like literally thrown in your face, blood, guts, right in your face. For the story, though, I'm going to give it an 8 for the simple fact that this was one of the twists of all twists in cinema history for the genre. And that ending was, at least for me, I saw it perfect timing, seeing it with my friends. And I think that's a good bulk of this. We'll talk about it later, is like the reward of watching with your friends and being grossed out and disgusted and reacting and having a good time with your buddies. There's a big part of that. Story-wise, it's super simple, but the fact that you had this super low-budget film, the fact that you had the directorial debut of James Wan, the fact that you had I don't even know how much money it made, but it made over $100 million in the box office. Like, I'm going to give it an 8 because it deserves its, recognition for what it created. This was a film that started a huge line of films like it, and I'm going to give it an 8.
Dude, that honestly, I'm surprised you went that high. I definitely agree with what you say though when it comes to the storyline, and this is the least torture porn out of the most. And I think that's why you lean a little bit more to the story on this one, which is great. What about you, Loretto?
That is 100% why I like this movie at all. It's not as gruesome as I know some of the others got, because I did see 2 and 3, and the more we got into it, I was like, oh what am I watching? But, with all that being said, I really liked what James Wan and Lee Whannell, to his credit, he also helped write the screenplay with, I think James Wan and Lee Whannell wrote it together. I actually really liked the mystery of why are they here? What are we doing? How do they get out? And then the parallel line of the detectives finding the bodies later. I liked how the little flashback style of seeing what happened to this person in this trap. I don't recall why. So Lee Whannell's character, his name was Adam. I was just looking it up, but then I can't remember, why was he in there in the first place?
I said it. So Adam was there because of his job. He's a PI, and Gordon's wife hired him to watch Gordon. And
okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that kind of just slipped through my mind there. But I will say this: I was leaning towards an 8 because I enjoyed the twist, and I enjoyed overall. I actually really liked the film. I had some really good moments, especially there was a jump scare or two with the pig guy, or with the pig costume. That was pretty good. But I thought the adultery theme was a little bit soft for what Dr. Gordon goes through. To have to cut your arm off because someone else didn't like you cheating, I felt was a little weak as a motive, in my opinion. I think they could have went further with maybe Dr. Gordon did this and this in his practice, and I think, I'm not sure if that's a theme in a later film, but I think the motive could have been stronger. But ultimately, as an experience, and with the twist that we all, anyone that's seen the film, that's what everyone remembers. I'll give it a 7-ish. 7.
Oh,
no, yeah. Honestly, Loretto, I really agree with what you say on the story. I think mainly when it comes to the Gordon subplot, there's not too much there for us to really care about what happens to his family, or at least how I felt towards it when I rewatched it last night. Actually, I'm just like, man, I get what they're trying to do. I don't feel like it works so well. And like you said, eventually, which is why I really do like Saw 6, the themes become much better when it comes to the reason why they're being put in those games. And I really like it, but this is also I don't know if we consider this one the torture porn one. I think everything from 2 and up is considered torture porn, but we have to talk about visuals. I just gotta say, I really like the editing that they do for this movie, and they keep it consistent even in Spiral. And that's whenever someone's in a trap, I really like the hectic and chaotic feeling of the editing, of zooming in and out on the person, to really grasp. They're like, holy shit, you're in their mindset. And this isn't like a blood or type of visual effect visuals. This is more of the editing visuals that I feel like that we haven't really spoken about for too many films in regards. And I think that's where the Saw movies and the first Saw really kind of separate themselves from other horror franchises. They really invest you and put those in those traps, which is something that I think is great. For example, when we see Amanda in the reverse bear trap in the beginning, that's a great visual of her just shaking her head, and the cameras in so many different places to help show the audience and viewers about where their mindsets are. And even with, I don't remember what he did, but with the heavier dude, because he would cut himself, so he was put in the barbed wire trap, and when he wakes up he's freaking out and there's like, what the fuck. By the way, Geekly Goods, I'll get on to my favorite trap later. Don't you worry. But you know what, I'm going to leave some visuals for you guys because I feel like this movie doesn't have too many, since this is the first one that they're really trying to touch on and find their footing and stride. So overall, I'm going to give visuals an 8 out of 10 on this one. What about you, Loretto? What are some cool visuals you found in this movie?
You honestly hit the nail on the head. The editing's really strong, and I want to give a shout out to the set design, especially because practically the entire film takes place in that bathroom, but just the way it was set with like the grime of it, the water in the toilet and the tub, and the prosthetic work on Jigsaw's face ultimately when he stands up, and I thought it was awesome. And it fit the tone of the film. It was really gritty, really grimy. Definitely not a place I would want to sit in, nor would I want to wake up in it. Especially being chained to the tub or whatever, the pipe or whatever he was chained to, and yeah, honestly, I think visually it's a really strong picture. Like, I think the weaker parts of the story is made up because of the visuals. I'm actually going to give it an 8 for myself.
Oh, yeah, I actually agree with that. Totally. Hit us with the Deebs. What are some visuals you found super awesome about this film?
Yeah, a lot of David Fincher vibes. You had Seven coming out in 95. You had Panic Room 2002, Fight Club 1999. Like, there's a lot of like that dungy, like dark kind of vibes with this film. You guys definitely touched on all of that. That you could see that Saul was going for. They absolutely crushed that part. Visually wise, I think Saw 6 did it a little bit better, and we'll get into that. So I'm going to give this an 8.
Awesome. And I think that's the really tough thing when we talk about Saw, is it's such a bare bones movie, just because one of the time it was made in 2004, and back in 2004, if you were given a small budget, that's pretty much a studio telling you to go like screw yourself, make whatever you want. If it's a hit, we get the credit. And if it doesn't hit, we just get to say we spent maybe $1,000 on you or something. I don't know if that's how much it was made for, but you get my point. But you know what this movie did offer? So many memorable moments. I'm just going to hit the nail on the head with this one, and that's the giant reveal at the end with Jigsaw and John Kramer being the dead body in the middle of the bathroom. As I watch this scene, it just makes me feel stupid that no one has ever questioned on their first viewing who the fuck this guy is laying in the middle of the bathroom that's just dead. No one questioned. The audience doesn't. The people, Gordon, no one questioned it. And you're just like, that's really good filmmaking if they can make you not question why someone's in there. Even later in life, like I said, 2020, but 2020, 2021, you can show this film to people and people wouldn't even think twice about who that person is. And I think they use a simple and very effective way, and that's putting the gun in his hand and making it look like he shot himself. So it doesn't only tell the people in the situation that, oh, he must just be dead, so who the fuck care who he is. And we kind of get that sense too. So to see him rise up as like this super reformed character, I'd like to say, they really shot this well back in the day. Super slow-mo. Lee Winnell had a great facial reaction. He's like, what the fuck? Like that's literally me, bro. And watching, dude, him saying the iconic line "Game over" as he slams the door, chef's kiss, and I think that's a great ending for the film. But you know what, Deebs? What? Oh wait, I didn't even grade it. You know what? I'm gonna give memorable moments a 9 in this film.
Right.
I absolutely love it. But you know what, Deebs? Hit us with it, man.
Yeah, I give it an 8. You already touched on it. The reverse bear trap was definitely like the moment that it set this franchise, to success. That you see Amanda like stabbing her way, and that was just an epic moment for me. And there was another epic moment, an intro moment in Saw 6 that I thought was really just as fun. But you nailed it on the twist. The twist was what everyone was talking about. That was the moment that made everyone appreciate this movie a little bit further. So I give it what did I give this for? Let me see what am I rating. Hold on. I gave it an 8. And I think my ratings are going to go a lot lower after this. But I give it an 8 because the reverse bear trap was like one of the sole moments where I actually felt emotionally attached to these characters. Outside of that, it's pretty much downhill.
No, yeah, easily. And I hope I don't say your pick, Loretto, but I want to give some credit to the wired sawed-off shotgun trap that Jigsaw plays out for the other detective, the Asian detective opposite of Danny Glover, and just blows his brains out. I just thought that was, I remember watching it, you're just like, what the fuck, dude? Why would someone just put a shotgun aiming down in the middle of a hallway out of nowhere? But Loretto, hit us with it. What are some memorable moments, man?
No, hey, that's fair. To be fair, I probably should have rewatched this before this stream. But anyways, just going off of my lacking memory, I will say that we've talked about the twist enough, but the score is what I remember the most. Yeah. Like, dun, 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 dun. Like that is what makes the ending so strong, in my opinion. I believe it was Charlie Clouser who did this score there. Epic. I think that was the one that stuck with me most because like I could hear that somewhere else. Like I could hear that like a Halloween store, and I'm like, oh, they're playing the Saw song, like. So for me, that was memorable in itself. And then for me, I gotta go with the final when Gordon just says, I gotta get off, fuck it, and he just I believe it was his foot, right? He cuts off his foot.
Yeah, he cuts off his foot.
And like you see, like I really appreciate the makeup work on that, where he just goes white, like he looks like a freaking zombie.
Yeah,
like
dude.
The blood leaves his body, and he's like shaking and sweating, and like obviously you don't see like too much of it, but you see enough to like get your like the hairs on your body to stand up, and also like the sound design too, like hearing like the like the scraping of the bone and with the saw, and that stuck with me too. That and the score, like those are the things I remember the most about the film. And yeah, man, I gotta give it a 9. I think in terms of like effectiveness, that was actually one of my favorite horror films when I was younger, like because that came out when I was like a junior in high school, and like just like I'm sure with you guys, like it blew my freaking mind. Like around that time, I was like into like Donnie Darko, I was into like Fight Club, so that really edgy like non-mainstream kind of film speaks to me. So yeah, I gotta give it a 9, man. Like that stuck with me for a while. It's just I like Dive said, unfortunately it starts to trail off a little bit after that, but I love the first one.
No, yeah, I think the cutting the foot off moment is awesome and great. I think Gordon, the actor who plays it, just plays it so well. He's just super desperate. And for the amount of character work they gave Gordon with his family, I don't think it was as good as the performance that we got to make us believe it, if that makes sense. Like, bro, when he takes that dude, no hesitation. He just he's just screaming, and then I'm surprised like he just didn't die from blood loss. Like we all know what happens. Like, dude, homie was straight white. Like it was great. But I feel like with these movies in particular, I feel like the rewatchability is tricky for some people. I feel like some people go back to this film a lot, especially during the Halloween season, just because this kicked off a new genre. type of thing. And I gotta agree. I think when rewatching it, I definitely have to watch at least one Saw film a year, or at least two if I do the first Saw film. I absolutely, it might not be the best, like just overall horror movie in the world, but there's something about that nostalgia and just the overall feeling of it just being so different and unique from a lot of the other horror films that keeps me going back to it. And even those memorable moments and visuals still get me a little giddy when I watch it. I'm like, dude, I forgot how good this looked for 2004. Like, bro, that's insane, him cutting off his foot. So rewatchability, I'm going to give it a good 7.5 out of 10. I feel like I don't really feel the need to watch it that often, but once October and Halloween comes around, yeah, babe, we throwing on Saw tonight? Yeah, we throwing it on Saw. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. What about you, Loretto? What is your rewatchability on this?
I gotta say, Rye, I appreciate your passion for this franchise. I think you are like one of the few guys I know that are just all about it, and I respect that. I mean, if that's what you're into, and like I said, I really enjoyed the first film. My problem is knowing like the twist. It's kind of like the Sixth Sense, but I like the Sixth Sense more so because I like the storytelling. So for in my opinion, I can watch Sixth Sense because there's always something that it's like, oh, I didn't notice that before. Oh, the red balloon means like there's a ghost upstairs because the color red is symbolic, and like that kind of stuff was fun for me. But for me, I could rewatch like the ending of Saw because I just love the score and I love the moment. But the prior part is like more enjoyable the first time around, in my opinion. No offense to any farts. The prior part is what I was trying to say. So unfortunately, I gotta go a little lower in my opinion. I gotta go more like a 6. I wouldn't find myself rewatching the entire film ever at all. Like maybe when I was younger, but I've kind of moved on from it in my opinion. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Nah, honestly, totally get that, Loretto. What about you, Deebs? What is your rewatchability for this?
You stole it from Ryan. You said Halloween, the H word. Like, this is that quintessential franchise that you get a group of teenagers together and they never saw Saw before, and they're gonna they want to react and have a good time on Halloween. That is exactly what this is. So I just actually watched it again, and man, it was cringeworthy. It was absolutely cringeworthy. The acting, probably the worst acting I've seen from Glover to my man from Princess Bride. It was not good, man. It was not good. I feel like the ideas were really good. It just wasn't effective, if that makes sense. It didn't work. It didn't make me care for the characters, which is, I think, an ongoing issue for the entire franchise, other than Saw 6, which we'll talk about. So other than that, I'm going to give this a 4 because this was not at all a movie that I care about. This is just me. Like I said before we started this show, I have no desire to show my daughter this movie. I have no desire to watch it with my wife. I have no desire to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see your reaction to this. No. It's not how it is. So I'm giving it a 4.
Damn, 4.
Harsh.
Okay. Now, I thought it would be at least a 5, but you know what? It's all good. But you know what? I think when it comes to overall score for this film, when I add everything together, I do find something truly enjoyable about this. Like you guys, I don't find that itch to really go back for it other than having it be Halloween season. So I'm just going to keep this one short and simple just because Saw, the first one, is pretty short and simple. The overall score for me, I'm going to give a 7 for Saw. What about you, Deebs? What would you rank the overall score for Saw?
I give it an 8. I give it an 8 for what it accomplished. I think big picture wise, it is a crazy success. This is a major success moment. Directorial debut for James Wan, one of my favorite directors, period. I don't have any interest in rewatching this, but for the moment, for me, like you, Loretto, we were in high school watching it in the theater. It was so much fun. It was like Blair Witch Project. If you don't experience it like that, like it doesn't translate well to like me in my mid-30s watching it on a random afternoon or when the sun is out. You know what I mean? You got to be like in the theater with your buds, you know, not sober. Didn't say I was. If you know what I mean. Like you're having a good time. So I give it an
I was
8.
high as shit.
I didn't say that, Mom. So my point is, like, if you see it in the right element, there is a lot to gain from this film. So I give it an 8.
Damn, I actually wasn't expecting you to go that high, but you know what? It makes my heart much more fuller. What about you, Loretto? Come on, bring it home with the negativity.
Hey, honestly, and you know, in terms of impact and like Dives, would you say that you would enjoy it better if the acting was better?
Yeah, the acting was terrible.
Because I think that's
I think Lee Winnell was the best one out of all of them, ironically enough, and this was his first role.
And you know what's interesting too is I think that's directly linked to what Rye was getting at earlier. They had to work with what they had, and Carrie Ells and Danny Glover obviously were like the more known actors, but they were probably the best actors they could afford, you know. So
Yeah.
I think for what it accomplished, I think for, like you said, Dibs, it was an experience to see Saw. So I'm really privileged to have seen it in the theater. I was high as shit. I was like, and then when that moment, the dun, 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 I was like, oh, yo, what the fuck? Like, and like you said, dude, like that is really something you earn. And that's something that you share with your buddies. Like me and my best friend can go back. We remember the first time we saw Fellowship of the Ring. We remember the first time we saw Saw. We remember the first time we saw Sixth Sense. And like those moments, like we'll always remember. So I think based on my nostalgia of that and just like my enjoyment of it the first time in the theater, that's how I got to grade this. I had a blast, and it was worth the movie ticket. It was the horror movie of the season that year. Like it just came out of nowhere. And then look at it. What is it? I didn't even realize it's 9 films, right? When you said 9th, I was like, holy shit, how many fucking Saws are there? So overall, you know what? On that note, in honor of the 9th film, I will give the first Saw a 9.
Damn. Okay. I like it, Loretto. And I just want to give you guys a fun fact real quick about the budget of this film. So that's the only reason why Lee Winnell was the leading man, is because they couldn't afford to get another actor. So they took Lee Winnell, one of the 2 writers other than James Wan, to come in because he knew what type of role they wanted. And honestly, I think it worked out for the better. So kudos to you guys. But you know what? We got to talk about Saw 6, baby. This is my highest rated one out of all the movies. I absolutely adore this one. I'll say it straight up. I think this is a really good movie. I can argue with some of the other ones when it comes to whether they're good or not. I'll be honest, but when people ask me if there's a good Saw film, I will always say Saw 1 and most definitely Saw 6. And we mentioned when it came to story in the first Saw that it didn't really have much going for it, but now I feel like they're in Saw 6. They kind of got their stride a little bit, and I think the story really pays off in this film. The story follows our main guy. If you guys see me like look to the left, it's because I got IMDb up right now for the characters. Because man, there's so many characters names in this fucking 9 movie series. It's just so hard to remember them. But we got our main character, William, played by Peter Outerbridge, who is an insurance claimer, I'm pretty sure. And what turns out to happen is he turns people away when he knows that they can afford having them pay for life-ending procedures or life-changing procedures. So let's just say someone's got stage 4 cancer and they have the opportunity to take a pill or some type of drug that's being tested. They'd go through the insurance and the insurance would pay for them if they're eligible. Well, in this film, they might be eligible, but William turns them away if it turns out to be a risk of them actually dying. So we find out that everyone he works with, they have a little circle within the main office, and I think they call themselves the Bowl or the Doghouse, one of the two, because it's like 6 or 7, 8 people all in a circle doing exactly what he does and giving the people to him. And so I really think that hits home when we see the traps. I'm not going to get into the traps because of the memorable moments, but I think this is where the Saw franchise really implements how each trap is designed for each person. And I will always say, when it comes to the Saw franchises, it might be torture porn, yes, but they all have a meaning and reason behind the traps. And I think that's what elevates it for me, at least. I'm just gonna wrap it up right there on story, man, and I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10 for story. What about you, Loretto?
I think
I
Loretto.
actually got to go. I haven't seen Saw 6, but I just really wanted to talk about Saw with you guys, man. So I just want to thank you guys for having me. I'll catch you guys next time.
Peace,
Yeah.
brother.
Later,
Peace,
man.
brother. All right, Deez, it's just me and you, man. Hit it home with Saw 6.
I think the two are so different. I think there's a lot of differences here. One, I was actually super invested in that douchebag insurance guy in Saw 6. Like the fact that they made this character, which I thought in turn made Jigsaw and Tobin's character like that much more interesting. Like this is a way more political story than we've seen from the previous Saw movies, and it actually, I think, made it that much more effective. You were actually invested in what was going on with the traps. Whereas, like, you know, I think you kind of saw from Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5, like it became all about the traps. Like, let's talk about the traps. Whereas in Saw was more invested in giving you that element of surprise, that element of the twist in the story. So it wasn't really about the story. Even still, though, I felt that a lot of these characters were just emotionally not there. You know, there's a lot of the traps that I just could care less if that person died. In fact, no, we're going to talk about the memorable moments. I'll get to that in a little bit. So I actually like the fact that they found a character that was like probably more hateable than the actual main character. So I give this guy props, who it was his directorial debut as well. You know, just kind of fun little comparison there with Saw with James Wan. So I give it an 8. I'm going to give it an 8. I actually enjoyed it. This was one of I said how I watched Saw like a couple days ago, and it was not as good, man. It did not put up. I watched Saw 6 again. Dude, I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude, it's a really enjoyable movie. And honestly, I got to give a lot of credit to Peter Outerbridge, because I think he gives a really good and convincing performance, especially when he's in the traps and debating on who dies and who lives. I think watching his face and his acting speaks a lot of volumes to the internal struggle of who do you choose in that situation. So I want to give him a lot of credit on that story end. But man, this movie's got some cool fucking visuals and practical effects. I'm just going to talk about the very last kill, and that's the death of William. We find out the twist, and the family he fucked over as an insurance claimer pulled the trap on him, but we didn't know what the trap was. Dude, this is what I don't want to say it's the coolest trap, but it's definitely up there for me. It's when like I'd say 50 toxic needles come down, inject fucking toxins into him, and melts his body in half. And just watching half of his body just be melted away while the other half is just stuck to the wall because of the needles is just so gruesome and grotesque. And you're just like, oh my God, it's just so disgusting and so memorable, on top of the very first scene, which is kind of hard to talk because it just like goes in from the end of the 5th movie with Strom's character dying by being squished by the 2 walls. And I like how they captured just his hand hanging there when the walls come up and his body just all squished. So I thought that's really cool. I'm going to give visuals on Saw 6 an 8.5 out of 10. What about you, Deebs?
Yeah, I'm an 8. I actually think the gore, there's I don't know if it was practical effects or what, but for some reason I think they sold it a lot more in Saw 6 than Saw. It just felt more real. It felt more like just that the shit was going down. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but I actually liked it a little bit more than the original Saw. I give it an 8.
No, yeah, I honestly agree. The visuals are astounding, but dude, the memorable moments in this movie are what make this movie a lot for me. I really like a bunch of these traps, and personally, my favorite trap is in this film, and it's the shotgun carousel.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a great scene to see how what people do when they know someone's hands are in someone else's life, or I said that backwards, whatever. You guys get my point. And the whole idea and concept of this is a carousel of all the people in the dog playhouse or play bin or whatever they call that little group of people, and they're all put into the little sections that are divided in the carousel, and William has to put his hand in and give blood whenever the carousel is moving, and the longer it moves, the more blood he loses. But the catch is he can only save 2 people. So who do you save in this situation? And once he takes his hand out, that's when the person stops and gets the bullet to the chest. And man, is this a really just like, what the fuck? How do you make this decision? And they put a pregnant woman in there too. So I wasn't sure if the movie was gonna go like full berserk and shoot the pregnant woman. I feel like if they did, I feel like some people would be like, oh, how do you kill a pregnant woman? But I feel like it also would have dignified and showed that this movie doesn't care about who the characters are. If this person did someone wrong like this, they just deserve to die no matter what. And each character has their own personality between how they beg for their life and how they scream for their life is absolutely fantastic. I think there's this one of the workers is a guy. He's just saying, fuck all of you. He's just saying he knows he's going to die. He just tells all of his workers, fuck you guys. You guys are awful. And as he stops, he tells them, fuck you. He just gets blown away. And I absolutely love it. Before we get to the scores, I feel like we can talk about some of the traps here. What about you, Deebs? What are your thoughts on some of the traps?
Dude, you know who that was, right? That's
No.
someone that grew up in the 90s. One of the best sitcom shows of all time. It was Eddie Winslow from Family Matters.
No, was that really?
It 100% was. I didn't even get it until my second watch. I was like, wait, no. And it was. It's Eddie Winslow from Family Matters, which is so funny because I love that show growing up. But the carousel is amazing. It's an amazing idea. It's not amazing in that, like, you had no idea who was all those characters were in that carousel. Like, you never met them. Like, they're these random people. But for what it was, for the time constraints, I thought it was really well done. The intro scene where the pound of flesh, where like you have the lady versus the guy like gutting themselves, cutting off their arms. That was awesome. That was truly awesome. That was right up there with the best of the best. So in terms of traps, I think those are right. Those two are right up there, man. I think they're right up there.
Honestly, there is one other trap in this game that I think asks a really interesting question. And I think it's the trap right before the shotgun carousel. I don't know what they call this trap, but it's when the older woman and the younger guy are both standing on the platforms with the barbed wire around their necks, and he kind of chooses who gets to live, the older woman or the younger guy. And the question is, do you save the older woman who has a lot of life left in her, but she's also old and you don't know how much longer she will live for, and save the guy who's much younger and has a longer life, but the guy has no family? So would it really matter if you actually killed him and saved this older woman? And I actually really think that's a great moral decision that they asked the character. It's a really hard place to be put in, between a rock and a hard place. And I just want to give credit to that trap because I feel like it asks more questions. And I feel like that's why I find it a lot better than I think some people do. Because relatively, that trap is really boring. He's holding both edges, and whoever he lets go, that's who dies. Relatively boring, but the whole ideology behind it is what I really get behind and why I really like it. And I'm going to give the memorable moments a 9 in this film. Deebs, what about you?
Memorable moments. All right, so I don't like this gore. I don't like these things. Like, so when I give my grade, make sure you're aware that like I am not a fan of these kind of situations at all. Like, I don't enjoy Eli Roth movies. I don't enjoy the what was that the Centipede.
Oh, the Human Centipede, bro.
The Human Centipede movie. Like,
if it makes you feel better, those are too much for me that I've never watched them.
No, I'm out. I'm out. Like, this is just not for me. I give it a 6 for the creativity of the traps. I think it deserves it. And that's it. Like, I'm not going to look on YouTube and rewatch these traps. I'm not going to. I'm giving it a 6 for the fact that I don't like it, and it had me, watching it like, what's going to happen, if that makes sense. So
no, yeah, I totally understand. And I'll be honest, I think I might be, oh my God, one of the few people that actually liked the twist when it came at the end of the film. They kind of get you like he's going to save his wife and son, but it turns out that the other woman in the room is the person he's trying to save, which is his sister. And the wife and son are one of the patients he declined healthcare for, or to pay for the whatever procedure it was, and it ultimately killed him because he denied him. And the family, what I like that the family took revenge, because it added a nice little twist on the Saw franchise, because most of the time it's people failing and that's why someone dies, instead of taking revenge one-on-one given the opportunity. Yeah, go ahead, Deebs.
I forgot. It's also important to note that this was like a movie that kind of had connective tissue to a lot of the other Saw movies. So when talking about memorable moments, like the box, like what was the box? There was definitely kind of a tie-in with all the other Saw movies. So that's also super important to make that note.
And I don't want to go back to the story too much, but I just want to say not Strom. Oh my God, dude. Why am I forgetting the main cop? Hoffman. Oh my God. I think Hoffman's one of the worst characters in this franchise. Like, that's what, just in case anyone's like, why don't you mention Hoffman? Like, he's just an awful character. And I don't know how no one figured out he was the Jigsaw killer after Kramer died. But that's just me. Let's talk about rewatchability. I definitely think I'm in the minority here. I really like watching the traps. I love watching the deaths just because of that more practical look. Like you said, Deebs, the traps and the gore look better in this. So I feel like it sells it a lot better, and it brings my enjoyability up for me on that. I think I gave Saw a 6 for rewatchability. I'm going to give this one a 7. Just enough investment for me to care about William and his job and how he goes back and forth between his ideology, what's good, what's wrong, especially when it comes to his coworkers. But how rewatchable do you find this, Deebs?
A 2. I'm going to give it a 2. I'm never watching this again. No way. Like, even if I have like a boy and I'm like 20 years from now and we're watching movies together, like, no, there are way better like torture porn movies, like gore movies that we're going to watch together. I'm sorry. I gotta be honest. I'm going to give it a 2 because I have no interest in this. So 2.
Damn, I was kind of shocked you went that low with 2. But you know what, bro? It's all good. That's why we do these, because when we don't agree, it's great. I'm really curious to know what the numbers look like after this. But let's get into our final category for overall score for Saw 6. I didn't put it on my letterbox, so I can't see what I remember I gave it. But from memory, this is my number 1 Saw film, people. So if I gave Saw 1 a 7, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to give Saw 6 a 7.5. I think it nudges the first Saw, just that half score enough for me. Like I said, when it comes to rewatchability, there's enough for me to enjoy here. And I know I'm in the minority with this one, but hit it home, Deebs, before we do the math.
I give it a 6. I give it a 6. Like, if you're a fan of this series, if you're a fan of what these movies are about, you're gonna like it. I mean, I can't deny that. Like, the traps are great. They double down on the tone and the darkness of what made Saw 1 great. There's way more to offer here than I can be critical on, even though it's not for me. And that's giving you my grades here because I come from a person that I'm not into this type of horror. But I have to be clear, if you love the original Saw or Saw 2, you're gonna love Saw 6. So I can't help but give it a recommendation. This is definitely way better than the other movies. Which are absolutely garbage. I haven't seen Spiral yet. But anyway, Saw 6, I give it a 6, pun intended.
Nah, dude, honestly, I really love Saw 6. I'm gonna be honest. It's just I think it's just like one of those guilty pleasure films for me at the end of the day. But Deebs is doing his little math wizardry. Yep. I might as well start plugging everything. Guys, we have just finished the relaunch of our drafts. It just ended. Your boy came out the winner. That's about it. Done deal. Just want to say that y'all can all praise down to me. Nah, don't do that. I'm sorry. But I just want to announce our next one will be June 5th, and it will be the summer blockbuster draft where we choose films in the blockbuster season. We have dates between May 1st and August 31st for the films to count. Like I said, June 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to check it out. And don't forget to vote on our polls over at the Suit Up Geek Fix Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to us too for those. And tomorrow, I have a Spiral review coming out for all you beautiful peeps on the Suit Up Geeks channel. So check that out tomorrow. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Deebs? Oh, yeah. And tomorrow, we are doing a the top Disney movie ranking list. So check that out. We'll be live. I think it's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, guys. So stay tuned for that. And I don't know. Let's see which film is better.
Ryan, I have one question. What did you grade it? What did you grade memorable moments for Saw 6?
I gave it an 8.
All right, cool. Wow. All right, interesting. All right, give me 1 second.
No, dude, honestly, it's such a guilty pleasure film for me. And I don't know. There's just something about it. I'm not big into the torture porn, I guess you guys can say. But I feel like there's just so much depth behind the traps themselves that it doesn't feel just hammed on to just give you this super bloody and fucked up scene. I feel like I feel like they just give you enough to care about behind, but man, oh my God, this is the final moments, people.
All right, here we go. So our final grades for Saw. Oh, I didn't do the final grades for us here. Final grades for Saw is a 75%. Ryan, you gave it a 76%. Loretto gave it a 78%. I gave it a 70%. Good for 75%. Give me a second while I calculate.
Damn, Loretto's the highest out of all of us in that one. I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed on that. I definitely thought he'd be the lower one on the first Saw. Definitely thought that, but I'm curious to know. I think we're gonna average 69.
It is 69.
No, I do math correctly. I do math correctly, people. Remember that. No calculator. No.
All right. So Saul got the W here, 75%. Saw 6 got 69%. And that's our final tally there. Any final thoughts on that?
I do want to say this is a lot closer than I anticipated to be between the two films with the overall ranking. So even though Saw 6 did get a 69, I just want to say that it's still a good film. I will defend the franchise as a whole. I know that a lot of them aren't the best, specifically 3, 4, and 5, if you're asking me. But I definitely do recommend this film for horror buffs, at least. I think that's why I grew to love the Saw series so much, is because my roots are in horror. I grew up loving horror films, and just body horror is so unique and you can do a lot of things. And I definitely think Saw is a unique series. What about you, Deebs? Do you have any closing remarks?
I mean, we just took the top 2 Saw movies and they're not that high. So I just want to give props to the marketing. I want to give props to the shit ton of money this franchise has made for how many years, Ryan? Like,
Yeah, dude.
like they saw
2004.
they saw their demographic, they saw their niche, and they nailed it. They 100% nailed it. So that's all I got to say about that. Is this isn't my favorite franchise by a long mile, but they made a lot of money out of it by knowing exactly what the audience wants and giving them what they want.
I also think it's fucking crazy that from 2004 to 2010, one came out every single year. And then it's been 11 years since the final chapter came out. And we've only gotten 2 at this point.
Yeah.
By the way, I definitely don't think we're not getting another one. I definitely think there will be more in the future. So guys, we'll be back talking about them. But without a doubt, thank you guys so much for checking out the Suit Up Geek Fix show. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for our YouTube channel. And if you guys want to stay up to date with all of our information, our show times, and what we have on the schedule, because we do pull some last minute decisions and post them, check us out on Twitter at the Suit Up Geek Fix down below. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.